So you just picked up the Brier starter deck. Good job finding these. These aren't the easiest to find, but you can either pick it up through LGS sometimes or TCG Player. They're going for $15, so you can pick it up there as well. This video is going to be about how you can take this deck here, what's in it, and how you can take it, upgrade it to a more competitive deck for just $50, and then how you can even keep going there and upgrade into even more competitiveness into a CC deck and whatnot. But we're going to start right here at the starter deck, just like you did. Let's figure this out. I have here the deck list out in this contents. The only change here is Aether Ironweave. The deck originally has Curtain Cross Strap. That is what is in here. However, in Blitz, this is a banned card. So instead, I replaced it with Aether Ironweave, which is a very cheap, common equipment that has a very good ability as well. What the starter deck comes with is we got quite a bit of Earth cards, but we also got a little bit of Lightning cards as well. We're pretty Earth oriented. We're going to stick to that. We're going to stick to that game plan when we upgrade this deck. It just has like big, tall attacks. This is like a just swing with one big attack sort of deck right now. So let's see how we upgrade it and what that even means. So let's go to the budget Briar here. Let's go to the cards. Here you can see we've kept it under the $50 price mark. Originally I was going to do $100, but you know, times are tough. It's the holiday season. Maybe we don't have extra cash to spend. So for only $50, let's see how much upgrade this deck is. So you can see our equipment layout is a lot different. You still stick with the Rosetta Thorn, which is awesome. But you're going to add a few things like Crown of Dichotomy. This is just something that has an arcane barrier to stop the wizards from ruining your day. It's another common, so it's not very expensive. No rune boots and no rune robes are just arcane barrier equipment. We're going to run Snapdragon Scalers instead of the Sutcliffe Sweet Hides. Snapdragon Scalers, it can be used as an attack reaction to give your attack go again. Where the starter deck comes in with one big attack, this deck's going to come in with a lot of smaller attacks. And finally, we have a Majestic equipment. It's not worth too much, but it is pretty good. It has the arcane barrier and also has the action where you can destroy it and create 2 Moon Chance tokens. And that can always be very game turning. So let's get into what we added into the deck to help the competitiveness level of it. The first card is Arcanic Shockwave. It's a 0 for 4. It has a bit of a lightning fusion, and it can do a 1 arcane damage to fuse. But really, we're looking at 0 for 4 here, and we're going to see a lot of that. That's exactly the numbers we want to see. We keep the blue Autumn's Touch. They're great because they're an Earth card that pitches for blue. We'll get into why that's important. We keep the Bramble Spark because that's just a very solid card that this deck already had, so it was nice. I guess this deck didn't have a blue Autumn's Touch. Now we get a blue one. Captain's Call is a new card. It's a 0-cost non-attack action. It's a generic card, so you can play it in your other decks if you buy this card. And you can choose to give your next attack +2 or go again, so that's pretty huge. We do want to attack multiple times a turn, so go again is always nice. And now let's talk about the bread and butter of this deck. What's the real upgrade when it comes to the deck content, and that's Channel Mount Heroic. Channel Mount Heroic is a non-attack Earth action aura. It says attack action cards you control have +3, which is amazing. That means your 0 for 4s are now 0 for 7s, which is so much value. And then it says at the beginning of your end phase, put a flow counter on it. And then if you can pitch, or if you can move from your pitch zone, Earth cards that equal the number of flow counters on your Channel Mount Heroic, then Channel Mount Heroic gets to stay around. So what that means is like the first turn you play Channel Mount Heroic, and you probably pitched, let's say, a blue Autumn's Touch. Well, that means after the turn's end, you put that blue Autumn's Touch that you pitched on the bottom of your deck, and then the Channel Mount Heroic sees that and says, okay, cool, you can keep me around until the next turn. Well, you'll have to do 2 Earth cards if you want to keep it again. But usually just having the Channel Mount Heroic for those 2 turns is enough. Like, it's that powerful. Blue Earth Lore Surge, that we keep from the other deck. It's just another blue Earth card that helps pay for Channel Heroic. That's really what we like our Earth cards to do. Entwine Lightning we keep from the other deck, 0 for 4 again. We like that. Exude Confidence. This is another Majestic. This one's a generic as well as like the Captain's Call. So we can play it in other decks. 0 for 4. It has a little special ability here where if a card is blocking, like an attack action card that is blocking Exude Confidence, if its power is not greater than Exude Confidence power, which starts out at 4, then the defending player can't play instances or defense reactions, which are quite prevalent in this format. And then you could pay 3 resources to give it +2. You could do that multiple times. So it's a pretty good card, 0 for 4. And we kept it under the $50 budget, so it's not too expensive. Here's another Majestic. Now this one's just Briar specialization, so you can only play in your Briar decks. But again, this one's just so good. It's another non-attack action. Whenever an attack action card you control hits this turn, if its power is greater than its base power, draw a card. And if you confuse this, the next attack gets +1. So what that means is that if you play Force of Nature, you fuse it with Autumn's Touch by revealing Autumn's Touch, then you can then have this Arcanic Shockwave come in for 5, and if it hits, you draw a card. Now, what makes this card just really so good is that when you pair it with Channel Mount Heroic, where everything already has the buff, then this card is just gravy, man. You're drawing a card every time one of your cards hit because all your cards get +3. So it's a very, very good card. Definitely worth the spot in your deck for sure. Okay, so Gorganian Tome. This is another generic Majestic, so another card just to have for your collection. So if you want to play other heroes, you can play this in there. Draw X cards, where X is 1+ number of Gorganian Tomes in all graveyards. This is a legendary, so you can only have 1 in your graveyard, or 1 in your deck, I should say. So most times they'll only draw you 1 card, but sometimes they can draw you 2 if your opponent played 1. Red Lightning Press. This is just rare. Kind of surprised it wasn't in the starter deck, but it does give your attack action cards that cost 1 or less +3. And if you haven't figured that out by now, all your attack action cards are less, other than like the Autumn's Touch. But it's just a blue card. We just pitch that most of the time. We don't hardly ever attack with that. Lightning Surge. There's a yellow one in this deck, but this is red. We like this. 0 for 4. It can have go again if played from Arsenal. Nimbalism is just a 0 that pumps up 3, so it's just a pump card. But we really do want to play non-attack actions and then attack actions, so that we can get this blade coming in and dealing some arcane damage with it. So we do like having the pumps. Plunder Run. This card is only legal in Blitz, but it is a very, very good card. Next time attack action you control hits this turn, draw a card. As you can, I don't know if you're picking this up by now, but drawing cards is really good in this game. And if Plunder Run is played from the arsenal, the next attack action card you play this turn gains +3, so it's also a pump, a 0 for 3 pump if played from Arsenal. That also threatens to draw cards. Pulse of Candlehold. This is a Earth Lightning action. It's another Majestic. It really can only be played with Briar, so this is specific to her deck. But it puts up to 2 target Earth, Lightning, or Elemental action cards from your graveyard on top of your deck. Not a lot of things put stuff on top. So if you already played your Channel Mount Heroic and it's in the graveyard now, well, now you can play Pulse of Candlehold and put your Channel Mount Heroic and an Autumn's Touch on top so that you can play your Channel Mount Heroic next turn. So it really helps with that. Ravenous Rabble here. This is just a 0 for 4 most of the time attack action. It does get a -X, where X is the pitch value revealed from the top card of your deck when you attack with this card. So if you reveal a blue card, it will come in for 2, and that's a bummer. Most of the time it will come in for 4, though. There's more reds and blues in this deck. Scarf Scar, another 0 for 4. This one gets go again if you have less life when it attacks, so that's always nice. Snatch is a 0 for 4, but with an on-hit effect to draw a card. There's plenty of ways we can get this go again, so even if it's just with our Snapdragon Scalers. Swarming Gloomveil, this is another Majestic. This is a Runeblade Majestic, so you can play for your other Runeblade heroes, such as Chain or Viscerai. This one's a 0 for 3, and if you played or created 1 or more auras, it gets Go again. If you played or created 2 or more auras, it gets +1, and if you played or created 3 or more, it has when this hits, that hero cannot prevent arcane damage from any source this turn. So Swarming Gloomveil is pretty nice because there's multiple ways of creating a aura. The Rune Chants tokens here, by destroying this, creating 2 of them. Those are Rune Chant tokens are auras. Briar's Embodiment of Earth and Embodiment of Lightning tokens, those are both auras. So there's plenty of ways to create it with Swarming Gloomveil. So Swarming Gloomveil will almost always have Go again, and most of the time will have the +1 as well. Tome of Harvest, this is another Majestic. This is Earth, so you can play this in your Briar deck, or if you want to get my man Oldham back here, you can play in his deck as well. There he is. But basically, it has where you can put a card from your arsenal, so you have to have an arsenal. You put a card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck, and then you draw 3 cards. That's pretty damn good. It counts as your non-attack action for the turn, so that's really nice. If you play 2 non-attack actions, you get, Embodiment of Lightning. That gets you Go again. By the way, if you don't know how to play with Briar, like play with the hero Briar, I think DM Armada, and maybe we'll link it or something. He does some videos on how to actually play the hero, so check that out. And then we finally have Weaver. We kept this from the last deck as well. It's another blue pitch Earth card, which is what we want. Okay, so all this, it's a lot of cards. It's a lot of new cards, right? But all of it is still under $50, and you have some of the most powerful cards for the deck. The deck is very competitive at this point. You're good to go. This is the budget Briar build, and it is still competitive. But let's say you took this deck, you upgraded to the budget, and now you're ready to spend some more money because you really like this deck and you really want to even get more competitive with it. Let's get down to what it costs to play like a tier, like an upper echelon tier deck. And so now we're looking at Briar Competitive Blitz, and boy, do we have a price jump. So let's talk about that. So I want to start with the deck first. The biggest inclusions are E-Strikes. I believe they're about 45 a piece right now. This is a 0 for 5 that lets you draw a card or have Go again or have +2, so it could be a 0 for 7. This card is just so good. It is generic, so I would say it is worth like investing in because you can play it in other decks, and a lot of other decks do play it. But yeah. And then the other pricey card, and it's not that pricey, they're about $10 a pop. So this would add another $20 to your deck. Revel in Runeblood. If you play an attack action and non-attack action this turn, create 4 Rune Chant tokens. And at the beginning of Infinite Destroyer. So basically you need to pop all your Rune Chant tokens with an attack of some sort. But anyways, it's just a 0 for 4 in Rune Chant form, really. And so that's another $20 there. So really adding these 4 cards really help bring up the competitive level of the deck itself. And that would be the price of $110. So for $160, you can get, with this armor, you can get this deck. Now let's talk about why it's almost $600, this deck. And it's because of the equipment. I think once you start really playing, you'll realize how important equipment is and how big it is. And that's also why it's one of the more expensive items. Also, there's some legendaries in this now. So we keep the Aether Ironweave, we keep the crown, but now we have a Crown of Providence. This is probably going to be the headpiece you're going to wear the most. It has, when you defend with it, you may put a card from your arsenal or hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card, and that's just really good. And these are like almost 200. I think they're 170. And so is Tunic. Let's get to Tunic. Both of these legendaries are generic, so you can play them in other decks. They're definitely worth your investment. I would highly recommend them. Because if you want to get at all competitive or at all playing with the big boys or the big leagues or whatever, you know, these are equipments that are good to have. This isn't like another $170, $175 card, but every 3 turns you get a free resource, and that's why it's so big, which is really nice. And then finally, the last big piece of equipment is this one here, Grass of the Arknight. Another legendary. This is only for Rune Blades though, so keep that in mind. I would sooner buy the crown, or I'd sooner buy the tunic than the crown and then go after the grass. But, you know, I think, so they did just reprinted this one. This one's actually a lot cheaper, so maybe it is better to just grab this one first. I believe this is $60 or $60 or $70 because you can get this in a white border frame, which, you know, however you feel about that, but it does make it a lot cheaper. Basically, this helps create rune chance, but it also blocks for 2 and then gets a -1 counter, and then it can block for 1. So it kind of blocks for 3 and throughout the whole game. So that one's pretty nice, and that one's actually a lot cheaper, which is always a plus. So if you want to get real competitive with this Blitz deck, you're looking at about $570. Now, I want to do something here. Let's take this one more step further, and let's talk about bringing this into Classic Constructed, which means what we're going to do. So now we have 80 cards to work with. That includes our armor and our cards in here. And what that means is we can have 3 ofs in CC, which is Classic Constructed. And you can see we're adding the Channel Mail Heroics. These are Command and Conquers, where you obviously don't need the Fable version, but these are quite pricey. These will run you high cost. Erase Face, not too bad. The equipment package, which I think we should really emphasize, is the same. It's the same as the Blitz one, right? So as far as like the big ticket cards. So what is nice is that if you upgrade here, it's not too far off from just here. The price difference is that's 50. It's 570 to 910. So the Command Conquerors are like almost 100 a piece. So that's really where most of the value wins, in these 3 cards. Anyhow, one thing I want to look at here is, you know, this might seem pretty damn pricey, and truth be told, you know, $900 is a lot of money. But I wanted to show something here. I got pulled up Magic, and I got on this Modern, and I think you can really just do any like tournament, but this one's a 5K, so that one's probably a big tournament. And you can see, like, you know, this deck goes for $1,000, where this might seem very pricey. This deck here at $910. It's pretty cheap comparatively. That's how we start with our starter deck, Briar here, and how we can take her all the way to a competitive CC deck. But you can just, only for $50, you can really just make her into something very fun, very competitive, something that's going to get you some W's out there. And maybe if it's just within your fab circle, maybe you can be the infamous Briar player. But it's all possible just by starting out and buying the starter deck and going from there. And that's what it's all about with Flesh and Blood. Just learning some heroes by just starting out, buying them. I think everyone that I know, including myself, I started out and I bought the Levia deck. And my partner in crime, she bought the Prism deck. And this is what introduced us to the game. And that's how most people get into this game. So I'm going to do a video for each hero on like how you can take this deck and make it more competitive in Blitz and then outside of Blitz. So keep around if you want to see some more. Let me know. And until next time, keep on fabbing.